The crystal clinked against fine china, a sound Isabella Rossi had come to associate with quiet dread. Around the Pembroke dining table, everything gleamed with cold perfection. Her mother-in-law, Catherine, held court at the head, her smile as polished as the silver. "A toast," Catherine announced, her eyes settling on Bella. "To Leo's new firm. And to Isabella, who's finally learning to manage our Leo's eccentric needs." The backhanded compliment hung in the air. Leo, seated beside Bella, simply patted her hand absently, his mind clearly on blueprints and budgets. He didn't see the subtle jab, just as he never did. This was Catherine's domain, a world of unspoken rules and cutting elegance where Bella always felt like a clumsy guest. Later, as coffee was served, Catherine produced a beautifully wrapped, heavy box. "For you, my dear," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Something to help you find your footing." Inside was a leather-bound book, its title embossed in gold, The Pembroke Wife's Guide to Gracious Living. Alone in their apartment later, Bella stared at the book. It felt heavy in her hands, a tangible weight of judgment. Leo was already on a work call, the dinner forgotten. With a sinking heart she opened it. Chapter 1. The Art of Deference and Domestic Harmony. Her eyes scanned the condescending prose. A Pembroke wife understands her primary role is to support her husband's ambitions, creating a serene sanctuary from the vulgarities of the world. Detailed everything. How to fold his socks. The precise temperature for his evening scotch. Recommended reading lists to improve her conversation. It wasn't a gift. It was an indictment. A hot wave of humiliation washed over her. She had put her own graphic design career on hold for Leo, and this was how his mother saw her. As a project, a domestic servant in training. The carefully constructed walls of patience she'd built over 2 years crumbled in that moment, leaving only raw, shaking anger. The anger did not subside. It crystallized. Bella spent a sleepless night reading the manual cover to cover. Chapter 4. Prudent Management of the Household Accounts. Chapter 6. Cultivating Influential Social Connections. With each page, her perspective shifted. This wasn't just a list of insults. It was a blueprint. It laid out, in Catherine's own words, exactly what she valued most. Control, reputation, money, and social standing. A dangerous, calm clarity settled over Bella. She wouldn't throw this book away. She wouldn't angrily confront Leo. She would follow it, but not to become Catherine's ideal daughter-in-law. She would use its principles as a weapon. She fetched a sleek new notebook. On the first page, she wrote a single, decisive title. Operation Gracious Living. Then she began to take notes, her creative mind now designing a campaign of exquisite revenge. Phase 1 was total compliance. Bella began implementing the manual's dictates with serene dedication. She prepared the exact breakfasts it suggested. She organized Leo's home office according to its feng shui principles. When Catherine called with helpful critiques on their furniture arrangement, Bella listened meekly. "You're right, Catherine. I'll see to it immediately." She could almost feel the suspicious silence on the other end of the line. Leo noticed the change. "You've been amazing lately, Bella. So peaceful. Mom was just saying how you're finally settling in." The comment should have stung, but Bella just smiled. This was her camouflage. Her perfect obedience was a cage, and she was patiently, quietly, locking Catherine inside. She started studying the household finance chapter not to save money, but to understand the Pembroke financial ecosystem. The first thread she would pull was monetary. Bella discovered that Catherine, for all her talk of fiscal prudence, was a surprisingly lazy manager of the family's holding company. The books were handled by a man named Arthur, who had been her late husband's bookkeeper. Bella, using skills from her own freelance days, created a complex, color-coded spreadsheet tracking the company's cash flow from public records. A pattern emerged. Consistent, significant payments to a Strategic Acquisitions LLC. Digging deeper, she found Strategic Acquisitions was owned by Arthur's son. It was a classic skimming operation. Catherine was either oblivious or willfully ignorant, trusting old family. Bella saved the files to a secure, encrypted drive labeled Household Accounts. She wouldn't expose it yet. This was a treasure to be buried, then unearthed at the perfect, most damaging moment. Phase 2 involved social infiltration. The manual emphasized the importance of a wife's judicious circle. Bella began actively cultivating Catherine's friends. She volunteered for the Pembroke Foundation, not in a visible role, but handling their neglected graphic design needs. She redesigned their brochures and website for free, endearing herself to the foundation's director, a sharp woman named Evelyn who had long been frustrated with Catherine's disinterested leadership. At charity luncheons, Bella listened. She learned that Catherine's best friend, Beatrice, was terrified her art gallery was failing. One afternoon, Bella bumped into Beatrice at a cafe. "Your gallery is so important to the city's culture," Bella said, leaning in confidentially. "I have some ideas if you're open to them." The hook was set. Bella's plan for Beatrice's gallery was brilliant. She designed a viral social media campaign targeting a younger, wealthier demographic, framing the gallery as a hidden gem. She used her design skills to create stunning digital invitations for the reopening. She did all this from the shadows, insisting Beatrice take the credit. The reopening was a smash success, the gallery's best night in a decade. Beatrice, flushed with victory and champagne, pulled Bella into a tearful hug. "You saved me. Catherine always said you were." "Well, never mind what she said. You're an angel." Bella smiled modestly. She had not just gained an ally, she had created a stark contrast. Where Catherine offered condescending advice, Bella offered tangible solutions. The social groundwork was laid. The tension was a live wire. Catherine knew something was shifting. Her son was happier. Her friends mentioned Bella's refreshing ideas. She couldn't attack Bella directly. The girl was, on the surface, perfectly obedient. So she escalated. She began gifting Bella increasingly personal items. Expensive, matronly clothing to replace her youthful wardrobe, a subscription to a conservative women's magazine. It was a message: you do not belong. Conform. Bella accepted each gift with a gracious, vacant smile, meticulously logging them in her revenge notebook as evidence of Catherine's campaign. She then donated the clothes to a women's shelter, taking a quiet, personal satisfaction in the act. The manual sat on her shelf, a silent co-conspirator. The annual Pembroke Foundation Gala was Catherine's Super Bowl. It was the pinnacle of the social calendar, a night where her status as queen was undeniable. The planning was a military operation of florists, caterers, and guest lists. This year, Catherine requested Bella's help with the menial tasks, tracking RSVPs and coordinating place cards. Bella agreed eagerly. It was the perfect battlefield. As she handled the guest list, she noticed a name, a prominent, notoriously ruthless business journalist. A risky, brilliant idea sparked. She ensured his invitation was personally upgraded, with a handwritten note from the gala committee, hinting at a significant announcement regarding the foundation's future direction. She was setting the stage, carefully placing the players for her final act. Leo was stressed. The pressure of his new firm was immense. One evening, he snapped at Bella over a misplaced file, echoing his mother's criticisms about clutter. It was the first time he'd ever spoken to her like that. Bella didn't retaliate. Instead, she followed the manual's advice on handling a husband's professional strains. She remained calm, poured him a drink, and listened. She saw the fear in his eyes, the fear of not living up to the Pembroke name. In that moment, her revenge shifted. It was no longer just about Catherine. It was about saving Leo from the toxic legacy he'd been born into. Her resolve hardened. This was for both of them. 2 weeks before the gala, Bella executed her first public move. She authored a beautifully written, anonymous article for a local culture blog, praising the revitalization of Beatrice's gallery and subtly crediting the new, dynamic energy behind the Pembroke Foundation's recent successes. It didn't name names, but the implication was clear. The article was shared widely among their social set. When Catherine's friends complimented her on the Foundation's new direction, she was forced to smile tightly and accept the praise for work she hadn't done. The first crack in her facade of total control had appeared, and Bella had engineered it. Catherine retaliated. She summoned Leo for a business lunch, and informed him that his access to the family trust fund, which he was using as a safety net for his firm, was being re-evaluated. She cited market volatility, but the true reason was clear. She was reasserting control through the purse strings. Leo came home despondent. "I don't understand her," he groaned. Bella saw her opening. "Maybe she's just worried," she said softly, playing her part. "Perhaps if you showed more independence, proved you don't need the trust fund." She was gently guiding him to cut the very cord Catherine was using to manipulate him. It was a dangerous gamble. The gala arrived. The ballroom was a spectacle of opulence. Catherine held court in a gown of icy blue silk, a diamond brooch glittering at her throat. She was the picture of established power. Bella wore a simple, elegant dress she'd bought with her own money, a silent declaration of independence. She worked the room not as a subordinate, but as a partner. She introduced Leo to key contacts she'd met through her charity work, watching with pride as he shone. Catherine watched this, her smile growing more rigid by the hour. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. The battle lines were drawn, invisible to everyone but them. The first blow was financial. As dinner was served, Arthur, the bookkeeper, approached Catherine, his face ashen. He whispered frantically in her ear. Bella, from across the room, saw Catherine's face blanch. The financial records Bella had compiled had been anonymously leaked to a member of the Foundation's board. Questions were being asked about Strategic Acquisitions LLC and the consistent drain on funds. Catherine's carefully managed reputation for business acumen was suddenly, publicly, in question. She tried to brush it off, but the damage was done. The first pillar of her empire was shaking. The second blow was social. During the speeches, Beatrice took the microphone. Instead of praising Catherine, she launched into an emotional tribute to Bella. "This woman, with her quiet brilliance and generous heart, saved my gallery. She represents the true modern spirit of philanthropy." The applause was thunderous. All eyes turned to Bella, who offered a humble, shocked wave. Then they turned to Catherine, who stood isolated, her smile a brittle mask. Bella had not just stolen the spotlight, she had reframed the narrative. Catherine was the past. Bella was the future. The final blow was familial. Leo stood up. He walked to the microphone, his back straight for the first time in years. He looked at his mother, then at his wife. "Everyone speaks of the Pembroke legacy," he began, his voice clear and strong. "But I've learned legacy isn't about the past. It's about the future you build. And my future, my strength, and the true heart of this family, is my wife, Isabella." The room erupted in applause. It was a king's coronation of his queen, and a very public dethroning of the old monarch. Catherine was utterly, completely defeated. In the stunned silence that followed the applause, the business journalist approached Bella. "Ms. Rossi," he said, "I'd love to speak with you about the new direction of the Pembroke Foundation. It seems there's a real story here about modernizing old-world philanthropy." Catherine overheard. It was the ultimate humiliation. Her legacy was not just being taken, it was being rewritten, with Bella as the author. She turned and fled the ballroom, a ghost at her own party. The victory was absolute. The revenge was complete. The fallout was swift. The Foundation's board launched a full audit, forcing Arthur out and ending the embezzlement scheme. Catherine's social influence crumbled as her inner circle, seeing the shift in power, gravitated towards Bella's genuine warmth and capability. Leo, empowered by his public declaration, formally declined any further support from the family trust, finally severing Catherine's financial control. The empire had fallen not with a bang, but with the quiet, efficient precision Bella had mastered from the very manual meant to enslave her. A week later, Catherine appeared at their apartment. The elegant matriarch was gone, replaced by a tired, bitter old woman. "You," she hissed at Bella, her voice trembling with rage. "You followed my book. You used it to ruin me." Bella simply looked at her, her expression one of calm finality. She had won. There was no more anger, only pity for the hollow woman standing before her. Leo stood firmly by Bella's side, a silent sentinel. The dynamic had permanently, irrevocably shifted. Bella walked to her bookshelf and retrieved the leather-bound manual. She placed it on the coffee table between them. "I didn't follow it, Catherine," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "I edited it." She opened the cover to reveal the pages filled with her own handwriting. Strategies, financial charts, social network maps. It was the physical manifestation of Operation Gracious Living. Catherine stared at the annotated pages, finally understanding the depth of the calculation she had provoked. She had created her own destroyer. "You wanted a good wife," Bella continued, closing the book with a soft thud. "You just never expected her to be smarter than you." She left the book on the table, a monument to Catherine's failure. There was nothing more to say. Catherine picked it up, her hands shaking, and walked out without another word. The door clicked shut, and the chapter of their lives defined by her toxicity was over. A profound silence filled the apartment, heavy with relief. In the following days, a new peace settled over Bella and Leo. They talked for hours, rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of honesty, free from Catherine's shadow. Leo apologized for his blindness, and Bella shared the full extent of her campaign. He was not angry. He was in awe of her strength and strategy. They were finally a team, partners in the truest sense. The ordeal had forged their marriage into something unbreakable. Bella returned to her graphic design work, her confidence soaring. Her reputation, enhanced by the very public events of the gala, brought her a flood of high-profile clients. She was no longer Leo Pembroke's wife. She was Isabella Rossi, a sought-after creative force. She and Leo began discussing starting their own family, on their own terms. They were building their own legacy, one defined by mutual respect and love, not obligation and control. Months later, they heard through the grapevine that Catherine had sold the grand family house and moved to a quiet condominium in another city. She had retreated from the social world she once ruled. The Pembroke Foundation, under new leadership inspired by Bella's fresh ideas, thrived, its impact greater than ever. The name Pembroke was being redefined, and it was Bella's influence that was credited. The irony was perfect. One evening, Bella lit a fire in their fireplace. She took the leather-bound manual from its shelf. She had kept it as a trophy. She looked at it for a long moment, then tossed it into the flames. The gold lettering blackened and curled. She felt no hatred, only a quiet closure. The good wife's guide was gone, and in its place was a stronger, wiser woman. She had taken a weapon meant to break her and used it to build a better life. As the last page turned to ash, she turned away, ready for whatever came next, her future finally her own.